What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another exclusive interview with PW Mania. My name is Scott Mitchell, and joining me today is Carolina Cruz, formerly known as Emma Diaz from WWE. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I appreciate, you coming on and, your time today. And, you're someone I wanted to work with for a while. And I kind of wanted to start, I guess, from the beginning. Like, when and why did you first become a fan of professional wrestling?
Well, I was never really a fan of professional wrestling. I was scouted through like college athletics, which I thought was like super cool. And once I was hired by the WWE and I was, learning all about pro wrestling, I just fell in love with it within like 6 months of being a pro wrestler.
Definitely. And did you have any did you when you like I guess started getting into that world and started watching it, did you have any inspirations who really like drew you to where you are today?
I did. I mean, I would say like, do you mean wrestlers or like movies that kind
It
of
could be
like
either one, really.
Well, I've always been like a huge fan of like Fast and Furious.
Right.
And what I love about like pro wrestling is that you can tie in like athletics with, you know, that inner child and wanting to be someone, a superhero or someone that you've always looked up to, like growing up and stuff. So I kind of like tied those both in together, and I feel like Lita had like that really rough, edgy, like style that I kind of liked. So she is someone that I did go back and watch a lot.
Definitely. And you're no stranger to the physicality aspect of wrestling. We saw on WWE Next Gen, which we will get into in a little bit, but we saw your rugby background come into play. How obviously it's not the same, but how is that like similar to professional wrestling?
I mean, just being taxing on your body. I will say, like, professional wrestling is the hardest and most taxing sport that I have done, apart from rugby and amateur wrestling.
Definitely. Yeah, I had a couple friends who played rugby, and it looks like a very taxing, very hard sport. Definitely. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about, in the uh I almost said documentary, in the show Next Gen, which is kind of like a docu-series. Very strong recommendation on Roku if anyone wants to check it out. It's a great show.
Yes.
Um you talked about your family sacrifices and your dad's motivation on getting you where you were and getting you where you are. What what does that mean to you?
I mean, how do I answer that question? Um, I'm very proud to like represent the, Hispanic community, and I'm very proud to say that, my dad like risked his life so that I can become something in this country, and I definitely am becoming something in this country. I'm still very young and I have accomplished so many things. And I feel like as a Hispanic, I'm naturally like so hard on myself, but I need to remember that like I've done so many things, like being the first in my family to graduate college, going through school, accomplishing, already being hired by the WWE at 22 years old. You know what I mean? So, and it was like I did everything kind of at the same time. Like I was still a senior in college as I was working for the WWE, So sometimes I don't realize like how much I have done, and I don't really give myself like enough grace and, am proud of myself.
Yeah.
I'm usually focused on like what else can I do? Like how can I be great? You know what I mean? Like so yeah.
Definitely. And lots of congratulations and lots of respect for everything that you've accomplished so far
Thank
already so
you.
young in your career. And one of the biggest things that a lot of WWE fans, myself included, saw you on was the Next Gen show. What was that experience like for you?
It was honestly really cool. I feel like I didn't realize like what was actually happening in the moment. Like now I look back and I'm like, dang, like I wish I can like do it all over again. You know what I mean? Because now I know what it means to be highlighted on a reality show, for WWE. And I feel like I could have utilized that in such a bigger way. I feel like I was in my shell and very shy and wasn't really like confident. But I feel like I could have utilized that so differently, and it probably could have played out a little differently for me now. But you can't really go back. So I'm proud of, everything that I did on that show, and I'm proud that I got to share my story and, go through my first couple months, at the PC and how I actually got hired by the WWE.
Definitely. And that show we saw a lot of your in-ring skill, your promo skill and stuff like that. One of the biggest promos of that season, well, hopefully it's not the season, but of the show so far, came at the Comedy Store venue. What
Yes.
was that whole what was it like just getting up on the stage and cutting a promo in front of some of WWE's best?
It felt like it was like my last chance, like I don't know, it felt like I was holding on to a cliff and like I had one more shot to like get over the cliff. And I usually would do really well in circumstances like that. So, yeah, I mean, it just felt like I was underwater and I had to just get back on top.
Definitely. And you got to learn from some amazing coaches. I'm assuming like Matt Bloom we saw, but what was it like learning from everyone there, whether it be the coaches or whether it be the guests that they brought in or whether it be anybody else at the PC?
Well, like going back to kind of my answer that I previously answered, it's definitely now I realize that, it's amazing that that's where I got to start my career. You know what I mean? Especially now that I'm doing the indies, I'm so confident on all of my skill set because I know that the best in the business taught me, from the beginning. So, um I am very grateful for all to have been introduced by, the best company in the world, because now I'm like that's my goal, but also part of me is like, okay, but that's where I started, which is crazy because nobody gets to start there, so I'm very like grateful for that opportunity as well as confident that I had that opportunity.
Definitely. And you got to do a lot of cool things with that show, including going backstage at WrestleMania 39. What was that whole experience? I know you said you weren't really a huge fan beforehand, but
Wow.
WrestleMania is like the biggest spectacle in all of sports. So what
Yeah.
was that like for you?
It was like the coolest thing that I have ever done in my life. But I feel like now looking back, I'm like even more like hype about it than I was like at the time, because I've learned to love wrestling. So now I'm like, wow, like I was really like backstage at WrestleMania. Like that's crazy. But in the moment, I was super excited and super happy, but I wasn't as like shocked as I am now, if that makes sense. And I wish I would have been, but everything happens the way it does for a reason. So I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of those things happening.
Absolutely. And the show culminated with you getting signed. What was that initial feeling like for you when you got like when you met with Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom and they told you they wanted to bring you out to Orlando?
It was like a dream come true, like literally a dream come true. Like I didn't know what to expect, but it was just a dream come true, not only because I got to be, a wrestler for the WWE, like one of my biggest dreams now going forward. But it was my first like big girl job out of college, so it wasn't just like one accomplishment, but it was many.
Definitely. And that was really awesome to see. Massive congratulations for that.
Thank
Um, in your time training at the Performance Center, did you develop any close friendships that you have to this day or relationships? I know if anyone follows you on Instagram or TikTok, you'll see you and Lexus King, which I
Yeah.
love it. But
I mean, yeah, so obviously, our relationship developed, you know, um, under the time that I was hired by the WWE. So I'm so grateful for that because he's the best partner in the world. but yeah, I had a lot of, friendships, with Kalani Jordan and Brinley Reese and Carmen Petrovich. They were honestly like my closest friends, I will say.
Definitely. And unfortunately, things didn't work out, and now you're back on the indie scene, or now you're on the indie scene, I should say. But what did you learn from WWE that you could take with you going forward?
Honestly, the biggest thing that I learned was that, it's not about the wrestling, but it's about the personality and the promo, and everything outside of the ring. And that's like how I strive to be better than everybody else, because those things were the hardest for me and they're the most uncomfortable for me. So I can just imagine how, everybody else feels about it. And if you see on the indies, it's rare for people to want to cut promos and to, really put themselves out there. So right now I'm challenging myself to, cut a promo for every single show that I have and really like create that drama and create, all those stories because that's how you make money, doing this stuff.
Definitely. And we saw a little bit of a glimpse of who Emma Diaz is with the show and with the short time on NXT, but going forward, who is Carolina Cruz? Who is the new lady that we're gonna see before us killing it and on the independent scene? And
Yeah.
what can we prepare for?
Carolina Cruz is, a street racer who has a chip on her shoulder, who I'm literally like living one life because my parents risked their life so that, I can be here. And that's pretty much like who I am. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see what you do on the indie scene for sure, because
Yeah.
obviously later this month, you're going to be making your Puerto Rico debut.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like for you? Because I know you said you have some Hispanic heritage, and
Yeah.
how important is it to you to be making that debut?
It's really important, for me to be making that debut because the goal is to, travel all over the world and put myself out there. And I'm so lucky that I'm able to speak another language to, where I can work in Mexico and I can work in Puerto Rico because I can understand what everyone's saying and I can, fit in. So I'm very grateful to be bilingual, and that's something that my parents always emphasized was that, being bilingual will get you places. Like if you don't realize it now, it will in the future. And right now it's getting me places.
Absolutely. And I wish you nothing but the best going forward. Also, on December 1st, which was just announced, I believe it was yesterday or earlier this week,
Yeah.
your Ladies Night Out 14 debut.
Yes.
Ladies Night Out is going to be on the Title Match Network, which is another one of the fantastic streaming services for independent wrestling. Uh,
Mhm.
what what can we expect from you there on that all-woman show?
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful to be on that show because there's amazing women on that show every single year. That's one of the biggest like indie shows, especially at the end of the year. You have WrestleCade, you have all those things. And, I'm going to be on that show with a lot of amazing talent like Masha Slamovich, Xia Li, like all these girls that are so good. And I just feel, so honored that they believe in me that I can, blend in and stand out and put on a show there. So you can honestly expect me to make a really good first impression for whoever's going to be in that crowd or watching behind Title Match Network because that's going to be my shot to open other opportunities for me.
Now that you've been announced for that show, I don't think your match has been announced yet. Uh, but is there anybody that you would like to work with at that show?
I would like to work Xia Li for sure.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be a
Yeah.
great match.
Yeah, we've trained together a few times and she's great. She's tough, badass. Bad, yeah. You know, she's a great opponent.
So going ahead for you, kind of tying into that question, but expanding a little bit, do you have any future opponents that you'd really like to square off with?
I honestly want to, wrestle. the best that the independence has to offer. I was really lucky to be able to wrestle Camille, my first few months, Ruthie J, like those are some really great talent. Um, I would, especially when I'm at Reality of Wrestling, like they have really good girls like Gigi Ray and Promise Braxton. Like I've got to wrestle all of those girls already. But going back to literally all the girls that are going to be on Ladies Night Out, that's all a goal. Billy Starks, Masha Slamovich, Jessica Roden, like all those girls are, have been around for a long time, and I'm excited to work with all of them.
Awesome. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see because I'm assuming that those matches will all come eventually. Like, even if it's not all at that show, like, we're going to see you
Yeah.
versus Masha, you versus Billy Starks, you versus J-Rod, and so many other top independent women's wrestling talents on the scene today.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I've also already got to wrestle Jasmine Allure, which she was great. So, yeah.
So you also got announced for WOW, the upcoming season, Women of Wrestling, as
Yes.
Catalina Speed. What can we expect to see from you there?
You can honestly expect Carolina Cruz just with a different name, which was great. I love that I have such a, like gimmicky character, but not really because it's really me. And, I didn't have to just go over there and like create something that was over the top. I got to be myself. Like I was lucky enough that, the car racing can be a thing, like there's so many movies about cars and everybody loves cars and racing and Fast and Furious and even the Disney movie Cars, like all of it. So yeah, I was super excited, it just came naturally because I got to be me out there.
Definitely, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything. So I want to end the interview with one more question, and that is, what's your future goals going forward right now? Is there anything that you specifically have in mind and that you want to accomplish within the next year or long term?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few goals, but they kind of all tie into one. The goal is that I want to be signed again, by a company. I want to work for a company, whether that's TNA, WWE, or AEW. So my goal is to be booked everywhere and get so good and so undeniably good, that a company wants to hire me.
Yeah,
So that's my goal
and
right
that's,
now.
oh, sorry.
Oh no, yeah, that's pretty much my goal. And then, obviously it starts with the little goals by cutting promos and, showing that I have all these assets that I didn't have when I first started.
Definitely. So, is there a message that you would like to leave the fans listening to this or reading the article that I'm going to be posting on PW Mania as well?
Well, there's only one speed, that's mine from Carolina Cruz. And yeah, just make sure you keep on following me, and that's pretty much it.
Awesome. So, where can fans support you, follow you, buy your merch, anything like that that you want to plug?
So my Instagram is Carolina Cruz _era, as well as my Twitter. And you can buy my merch and everything using the link in my bio. I kind of have it all there in one package. Hopefully it's easy for everybody to access. And then I have two t-shirts available on Pro Wrestling Tees, or you can just buy my merch whenever you see me. I always have t-shirts and 8x10s and checkered flags on hand. So if you're ever at a show, you can always purchase my merch there.
Awesome. And I thank you for your time today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you nothing but the best going forward.
Yes, thank you. You too.